Was this really happening? What do you mean, together? She asked, her voice barely audible. Ryan's expression softened, and for the first time, there was no indifference, no awkwardness. Just a genuine vulnerability. I mean, maybe we should see where this goes. Evelyn couldn't help but feel a lightness in her chest as she walked home, her mind replaying every moment of her conversation with Ryan. They had talked about school, exchanged a few laughs, and shared a silence that somehow said more than any words could. For once, he hadn't just been a passing thought, he'd been right there, talking with her, looking at her as if she actually mattered. Once home, Evelyn dropped her bag by the door and made her way to the kitchen, barely noticing anything around her. She was in a daze, her mind replaying each second of the conversation. She could still feel the warmth of his gaze, the way his eyes softened as he listened to her. As she opened the fridge and began taking out ingredients to make a sandwich, she caught herself smiling. The feeling was new, warm, and so much more than she'd imagined. You seem happy, her mother's voice broke through her thoughts. Evelyn looked up to see her mom leaning against the doorway, arms crossed with a small, knowing smile. What's put that smile on your face? Oh, nothing, Evelyn stammered, quickly looking down at the bread she was spreading. Her cheeks warmed as she realized how obvious her smile must have been. Her mother stepped further into the kitchen, a curious glint in her eye. Just nothing? You've been grinning since you walked in the door. Doesn't seem like a nothing to me. Before Evelyn could come up with a reply, her younger sister, Mia, dashed into the kitchen, grabbing an apple from the counter. Mom's right, you've been smiling like that since you got back. It's weird, she teased, biting into the apple and giving Evelyn a mischievous grin. Did something special happen today? Evelyn felt her blush deepen and she fumbled with her sandwich. I was just talking to someone after school, that's all. Mia's eyes widened, a smirk growing on her face. Was it a boy? Evelyn's mother raised her eyebrows, her smile widening. Oh, I see. Someone means a boy? Evelyn groaned, laughing in embarrassment, and rolled her eyes. It's not like that. He's just a friend. A friend, her mother echoed, clearly unconvinced. All right, I won't push. I'm happy to see you smiling, honey. As Evelyn put the final touches on her sandwich, she realized that this small moment of being teased by her family, of laughing with them over something as simple as a conversation, felt surprisingly nice. The day had started as any other, but now, with Ryan's words still lingering in her mind and her family's laughter filling the kitchen, she felt like things were slowly changing for the better. And for once, Evelyn didn't feel so invisible. The next morning, Evelyn walked through the school hallway with a smile still lingering from the previous day. Her thoughts drifted back to Ryan and the way he had looked at her. She was so lost in her memories that she didn't notice Sarah coming up beside her until she felt a tap on her shoulder. Someone's in a good mood, Sarah teased, a knowing look in her eye. Evelyn's cheeks flushed. She fumbled with her books, trying to keep her expression calm, but Sarah wasn't fooled. They had been best friends for years, and Evelyn knew there was no hiding anything from her. So, Sarah continued, raising an eyebrow, are you going to tell me what happened between you and Ryan yesterday, or do I have to guess? Evelyn laughed nervously, pulling Sarah toward an empty bench outside their next class. She hesitated, feeling the mix of excitement and nerves bubbling up inside her. It's not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal? Sarah repeated, leaning in closer, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Evelyn, you've been all smiles since yesterday. Spill. What did he say? What did you guys talk about? Evelyn took a deep breath, feeling the joy of the moment bubble up again. We just talked. He actually wanted to know more about me, like he was genuinely interested. And for once, it didn't feel like I was invisible, you know? Sarah's face softened, and she squeezed Evelyn's hand. Of course you're not invisible. But hearing it from him must feel amazing. It did, Evelyn admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked at me, Sarah. Really looked at me, like I mattered. Sarah grinned. Did he say anything about wanting to see you again? Like, maybe outside of school? Well, not exactly, Evelyn replied, her blush deepening, but the way he was talking, it felt like he wasn't done with our conversation. Like he wanted more. Sarah's eyes sparkled with excitement. Evelyn, this could be the start of something. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's feeling something for you, too. Evelyn shook her head, trying to keep her hopes in check. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but yeah, it feels different. And for once, I'm kind of excited to see what happens. Sarah smiled, giving Evelyn's hand another reassuring squeeze. Whatever happens, I'm here. And if he's the reason behind this happiness, I hope he knows he's lucky to have your attention. Evelyn's heart swelled with gratitude, and she realized just how lucky she was to have Sarah by her side. Whatever the future held with Ryan, she knew she wouldn't be facing it alone. With her best friend's support and the memories of her conversation with Ryan, she felt a new sense of courage, ready to see what the day would bring. Evelyn was still smiling as she sat in the classroom with Sarah, their laughter echoing softly in the empty room. But the mood shifted when other students started coming inside the classroom and taking their seats. Evelyn looked up, and her heart skipped a beat as she saw the man that always triggers her heart. Hey, Evelyn, he said, his voice warm and calm. He glanced at Sarah, giving her a polite nod before his eyes returned to Evelyn. I brought this for you. Evelyn's breath caught as he held out the book. She took it, glancing at the cover. It looked well-read, the edges of the pages soft from use. Thank you, she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. Ryan smiled. This is one of my favorites. It's the book that unlocked a lot for me. I thought you might enjoy it. Evelyn looked down at the book, feeling a warmth spread through her. Thank you, Ryan. I'll take good care of it. Good, he replied, a hint of a smile lingering as he glanced at her with what almost looked like admiration. So, how have you been? Evelyn felt her cheeks grow warm. I've been good. Really good. Glad to hear it. He nodded toward her with a gentle smile. Catch up with you later, Evelyn. She managed a small nod, watching as he turned and left the room, leaving her with the book in her hands and a heart racing with excitement. But just as she was beginning to savor the memory of his visit, her moment of happiness was interrupted. A group of girls, led by one of the more popular students, Laura, walked up, their eyes narrowed with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Laura tilted her head, giving Evelyn a mocking smile. So, she said loudly, her voice dripping with condescension, why is Ryan talking to you, Evelyn? Evelyn's heart sank, and she instinctively pulled the book closer to her chest. Laura rolled her eyes and sneered. You're not really thinking he likes you, are you? Don't dream about dating Ryan, Evelyn. Someone like you couldn't handle a guy like him. The words stung, and Evelyn felt her confidence crumble. She could feel her cheeks flush with embarrassment, her mind racing with doubts. But before she could say anything, Sarah stepped forward, her face set in a defiant expression. Maybe you should focus on your own lives instead of Evelyn's, Sarah said firmly, locking eyes with Laura. Ryan talks to Evelyn because he wants to. And if you're not okay with that, too bad. The group of girls exchanged glances, clearly taken aback by Sarah's assertiveness, but they eventually walked away, leaving Evelyn standing there, shaken. Sarah turned to her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Hey, don't let them get to you. They're just jealous. You have every right to be friends with him, and if he likes talking to you, that's his choice. Don't be intimidated by their words. Evelyn managed a small smile, feeling grateful for Sarah's presence. She looked down at the book in her hands, remembering Ryan's words about it being his favorite, the book that unlocked so much for him. As the girls' whispers faded down the hallway, Evelyn felt a renewed strength growing inside her. With Sarah by her side and Ryan's book in her hands, she knew she could face whatever the day would bring. The rest of the day went by in a haze for Evelyn. She found herself glancing at the book Ryan had given her whenever she could, running her fingers over the worn cover and wondering what secrets it held. His words echoed in her mind, "This is one of my favorites." It's the book that unlocked a lot for me. She couldn't help but wonder what it had meant to him and why he had chosen to share it with her. As the final bell rang, Evelyn packed her things, slipping the book carefully into her bag. She was about to leave the classroom when Sarah appeared at her side. "How are you holding up?" Sarah asked, giving her a reassuring smile. Evelyn let out a small laugh, shaking her head. "I don't know, honestly. It feels strange, like everything's different now." Sarah nodded, her expression softening. "It is different. Ryan doesn't go around handing out his favorite books, you know? I think he genuinely likes you, Evelyn." Evelyn's cheeks flushed, and she looked down at her feet, feeling the warmth of that possibility sink in. "It just feels so unreal." "Unreal, maybe," Sarah replied with a grin, "but real enough that Laura and her group are watching every move you make." She shrugged, her smile turning serious. "Don't let them get to you. They want to scare you off, but you deserve to enjoy this." They walked together down the hallway, and as they passed by the lockers, Evelyn caught sight of Laura and her friends. They looked up, sending sneers in her direction, but this time Evelyn held her head high. With Sarah by her side, she refused to let them see her fear. After school, as Evelyn rode her bike home, her mind drifted to thoughts of Ryan and the book. She wondered what unlocking it had done for him and what might be revealed to her as she read. As she approached a gas station, something caught her eye. She spotted Ryan walking across the lot, heading into the garage area of the station. Evelyn slowed down, watching as he disappeared behind the open garage door. Her curiosity flickered. What was Ryan doing in a gas station garage? She considered stopping, maybe calling out to him, but quickly shook off the idea. He probably has an errand to run, she told herself, convincing herself it was nothing out of the ordinary. Once home, Evelyn settled down by her window, curling up in her favorite reading spot, and opened the book. Inside, there was a handwritten note. "To those who wonder, let the words within show you what lies beyond." Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. She turned the first page, her curiosity mounting, and began to read. The book was filled with beautiful, poetic words that seemed to speak directly to her. It was as if Ryan had known exactly what she needed, a guide to self-discovery, a reminder of her worth, and a glimpse into a world she hadn't dared to imagine before. Hours passed as she got lost in the story, the world around her fading as the words on the pages took hold of her heart. She could see why it was Ryan's favorite. It was honest and raw, capturing emotions she'd kept buried for so long. The next day at school, Evelyn felt a subtle change in herself. She walked down the hall with her head a little higher, her gaze a little steadier. As she approached the walkway outside her classroom, she saw Ryan standing nearby, waiting. Their eyes met, and a warm smile spread across his face. "How did you like the book?" he asked as she drew near. Evelyn felt her heart flutter, but this time, she didn't look away. "It was incredible," she said softly, meeting his gaze. "Thank you for sharing it with me." Ryan's smile grew. "I'm glad you liked it. Have you finished it yet?" "Not yet," Evelyn admitted, "but I feel like I'm seeing a whole new side of myself." Ryan nodded thoughtfully. "That's good. The book has a way of opening your eyes to things, but there's more to it. You'll find out when you finish it. Sometimes, things aren't exactly the way they seem." She wanted to ask him about the garage, about what she'd seen the day before, but something held her back. Maybe it was the calm assurance in his voice, or perhaps the feeling that asking him would be prying. Instead, she smiled, accepting the mystery for what it was. Ryan gave her a soft smile. "Catch up with you later, Evelyn." She watched him go, feeling a newfound confidence swelling inside her. And as she turned to walk into her classroom, she knew that no matter what anyone said, she was beginning to see her own worth, something no one could take away from her. From that day on, the bullying girls seemed like nothing more than background noise she could tune out, and with every page of Ryan's book, Evelyn found herself growing braver, ready to embrace whatever came next.